Welcome to episode 3 of Agree to Disagree podcast with Phil and Ethan, a weekly podcast on News Center, Maine from now until Election Day.
That's right. Our new podcast will come out every Thursday. Each week, we will give you an inside look at what's happening in Maine politics. Although you may think July is the quiet season for Maine politics, nothing could be further from the truth.
That's right. This week, we're going to debate debates. How many debates? Should there be debates? 1,000 debates, 16 debates, 5 debates between Sarah and Susan. We debate what Portland's new charter should look like, and we explore why Democrats and Republicans in the legislature are at loggerheads over whether they want to come back into session.
We'll also play a little Love It, Hate It, or Wake Me Up When It's Over on topics such as the Republicans' failure to get enough signatures to put ranked choice voting on the ballot, and Democrats pushing for the $600 extra payment for unemployed workers.
$500,000 those Republicans spent to get that on the ballot. How'd that work out for you, Phil? $500,000.
Yeah. Okay, so our producer, start us off.
Well, let me just real quick. We're going to do a little tribute to John Lewis, and we're also going to have a little trivia question on Maine politics. So before we dive in. All right, Schoolsy. Sorry, go ahead.
As Speaker of the House, I solemnly and sadly open the debate.
All right. Once again, leading off our debate this week is the top race in Maine, Madam Speaker versus Madam Senator. Speaker Gideon versus Senator Collins. A day after the dust settled, Speaker Gideon challenged Senator Collins to 5 debates. Senator Collins struck back with a 16-debate schedule, 1 in each county, including scheduling one that very night. So, Phil, is all of this just posturing? How many debates should there be? Where's this thing going to land?
Well, I would also point out that while Speaker Gideon proposed 5 debates, she didn't actually contact the Collins campaign and officially offer that invitation. Having done it through the media, such as it was, I think Senator Collins' decision to come back and say, let's have a debate in every county in Maine so that we can introduce ourselves up front and personal to every county in the state. I think that's a wise strategy for Susan Collins. No one knows the state of Maine better than Susan Collins. She has a 20-plus year track record of building relationships. I think that's to her advantage to have those debates in a place where Sarah Gideon may actually be showing up for the first time in her life.
Look, I actually like the idea of 16 debates, but you can't say that Senator Collins' response was serious in any way, shape, or form. She said, let's do one tonight, 2 hours from the time, didn't have a place, anything like that. Look, this is just a lot of posturing. If we were playing Love It, Hate It, Wake Me Up When It's Over, I'd say wake me up when it's over. This is just 2 campaigns duking it out. Look, I think as many debates as we can have. If Senator Collins really wants to do 16 debates, which I'm skeptical of, because remember, she hasn't had a single public event in the state of Maine, a single public hearing in Maine, a town hall meeting since she was elected 20 years ago. But if she wants 16 debates in 16 counties, if I'm Sarah Gideon, I would say in a heartbeat, I'll take it. Let's begin it. Let's wait till after Labor Day, give ourselves some time to prepare for it. But 2 a week for 8 weeks, that'd be some good television right there.
Well, we'd have something to talk about. Actually, we could have Agree to Disagree twice a week rather than once a week.
Yeah.
Here's where I think this all shakes out. The more debates, the better it is for Susan Collins, for all the reasons that I stated. She knows the state so well. She has relationships everywhere that she can point to say, I'm in touch. I'm not based in Washington, et cetera. But I also think the bigger picture is an opportunity for Senator Collins to have Sarah Gideon introduce herself to the rest of the state. And I think that's where the divide is going to be, because if you look at the policies of Sarah Gideon, they are very progressive, very liberal, and they are not going to play well, particularly in the second congressional district. And I think that's Susan Collins' opportunity to say she's too extreme. I am totally connected and in touch with every part of the state of Maine in which I represent, And I think that gives the edge to Susan Collins.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I don't think it's bad for Susan Collins to do 16 debates. My issue is simply that she hasn't had a town hall in 20 years. It'll be good to have her in front of some crowds. She is good. I think Sarah Gideon is good too. Look, I mean, she may be progressive. She's a Democrat, but she ain't Portland progressive. She ain't, like my kind of Portland lefty liberal. But I think she's pretty middle of the road, solid for a Democrat. And I think as people get to know her better, again, I'd take Susan Collins up on it. 16 debates all over the state, like you said. We'll be doing podcasts out the wazoo.
Real quickly, the other side, but there's a big difference between a town hall and a debate. A debate is very structured. A town hall can be run over by special interest groups. Okay, let's move on. Strim, did you notice that another of my election predictions came true? The people of Portland overwhelmingly approved a charter commission for the city. For those of you in the arcane minutia of municipal law, that means that Portland will reopen its constitution to examine if they want the elected mayor to run the city. So, Strim, my take is that opening on the charter was clearly a call for a stronger mayor. What about you?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And look, you predicted this one. I did not think this was going to pass. I was being optimistic, saying it would lose by 10 points, honestly. Just incredible, though. 72% of the people of the city, Black Lives Matter, Progressive Portland, Fair Elections, all these groups called for people to vote for this. They stepped up, and they were all clear that they were saying, open the Constitution of the city of Portland to create a real elected mayor. Look, I've been on the inside, I've been on the outside. We've been fighting for 20 years to try to create a real elected mayor who is actually able to run the city, propose a budget for the council to consider, implement that budget, bring up policies, create a vision for the city, but put that vision in front of the council and have the council then deliberate, just like a legislature does. You have a governor, the governor proposes, the legislature disposes. The same should happen. I actually believe the council should have more power as well. The council is pretty powerless as it stands because 90% of the power is in the unelected city manager. That's got to go.
So with all due respect, you governed as mayor as though that's what the charter said. And as a result of it, I think you would agree in hindsight, you just brought on a lot of controversy, whether it's from your fellow city councilors or the city manager. And that never got sorted out. So from afar, because of course I don't vote in Portland, but I live in 10 miles north of there, it appeared to me, caring enough about how government works, looking in as how you were running the city, that the city manager said, hey, as far as I'm concerned, the city charter or city constitution, if you will, leaves me as the chief executive officer. You, as the elected mayor, said, no, the people of Portland elected me as mayor, and I'm going to be in charge. And I think for the people of Greater Portland, and certainly in Portland proper, watched this unfold for the last several years and said, we got to redo this and make it very clear who's in charge.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that is clear. We could debate forever what I was doing or what I wasn't doing. Obviously, from my perspective, people look to their mayor as the leader of the city, the minutia that we got involved in. And the problem is the council becomes the arbiter as to where the authority lies. And they just have a conflict of interest. So I often said to people when I was mayor, look, go back to the old way or go to a real mayor, because what you've got right now is people believing that they have an elected mayor that's leading the city and doing everything, and a city council that's blocking that from happening. So let's create a clear charter that makes it just like most cities in the United States. They have a mayor, they run the city, you throw the mayor out if you don't like the way they're running the city, you get rid of councilors if you don't like the policies they pass.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I hope that as they bring a new charter commission together, that's a very clear part of their charge, to come back with specific language and recommendations to determine exactly who runs the city, and give, if it's the mayor, give him or her the clear authority to do the things that you said: establish a budget, getting it approved by the council, overseeing the execution of the decisions that the city council makes, so that people really can reach out to their mayor and get action.
All right, Phil. Last subject. So a month ago, Republicans were banging on the State House windows, demanding that the legislature come back into session to revisit the emergency powers the legislature gave to Governor Mills and to offer solutions around the COVID pandemic. Well, now the Democrats are agreeing that it's time to come back into session. Republicans are saying not so fast. Phil, what's going on here? Why are Republicans not willing to come back into session after at first saying they were?
You are so artful in your political style, Ethan. Here's the rest of the story. The Republicans do want to come back into session. The Democrats do want to come back into session. Here's the distinction. The Democrats want to limit the scope of the discussion in the session to a very narrow focus. The Republicans are saying, we got hundreds of bills. We have financial issues arising. The governor has issued 50 executive orders since the legislature abruptly adjourned back in March. Republicans are saying, we're going to take back our legislative responsibility to do our job on behalf of the constituents we represent, which is all over the state of Maine. There's 186 legislators who are authorized by their election and raising their right hand, take the oath of office to do their job. Republicans want to get back to work, do their entire job. Democrats want a narrow focus.
I understood it a little differently than that. My understanding is that, look, when Democrats and Republicans agreed to adjourn, the deal was that they would come back and finish up all the bills that they've got, all these things that are in committee. And Republicans are the ones who are saying we want to limit it to just focusing on COVID, just focusing on sort of some of the budget issues, whereas Democrats are saying, no, we've got a lot of issues we want to deal with in this legislature. So, I'm not sure what you're hearing, what I'm hearing, but it sure seems to me that there's a lot of posturing going on. And what the people in Maine don't want is gridlock. Somehow or another, right now what we know is there was a vote that was taken and Republicans did not show up, did not participate in the vote in order to go back into session to create a problem with quorum. They should have at least stepped up and said yes or no. And if they said no, fine. But if there were the votes to go back in, okay. But just saying, I'm not going to participate, I'm going to abstain. That's just, that's simply saying, I'm not going to do my job. I'm going to take my paycheck and I'm not going to do my job. Yeah,
I on that point, I have to agree with you, Ethan. Plus it gives fodder to your side of the debate to say, hey, we couldn't even get them to show up and have the conversation, let alone ultimately determine what the agenda is going to be for the session. Here is what I think everyone can agree. Day by day, running the state by one person who's got a power of executive order is not what Maine people want. The legislature has to come back into session and get back to work.
Yeah, I think that's fine. And, I think we needed the executive powers. Republicans, Democrats agreed at the time because they had to get out of session to make sure they're not spreading COVID and all that and being safe just like everybody else. And that was good. And we've debated this. I think Janet's done a good job, but now is time to get back to work. We needed that when we needed it. And I think even Janet would say, fine, let's move out of emergency and go into just making sure we can govern. All right, now we're into one of our favorite segments, Love It, Hate It, or Wake Me When It's Over. All right, Phil, as you know, the rules of the game are each of us mentions a topic, and then the other one declares whether they love it, whether they hate it, whether they want to wake up when it's over, and then the other person gives their take on the same thing. All right? Go ahead.
The Maine GOP spent $1 million to gather signatures to overturn ranked choice voting, only to come up short. Senator, love it, hate it, or wake me when it's over?
Well, actually it was $500,000, not $1 million, but yeah, they spent $500,000. I love it.
Right.
Yeah. Look, I just love it because it means you didn't spend $500,000 trying to defeat Democrats. And, what a waste of money. It wasn't public money. Private people wanted to give to it. That's just fine. I love seeing Republicans waste money.
Oh, how little information you actually have. The Republicans put forward a Herculean effort to get the signatures during COVID-19. They actually had to attract signature signers to come to the petition. Normally, the petition gatherers go to the people. That tells you how much appetite there was for this issue. And the Secretary of State so far as we know today, declared 7,000 signatures invalid. It appears as though it was because technicalities, maybe in the town clerk's office. I don't think this conversation is done yet, Ethan. There's more details to come, and we might actually still see this on the ballot.
No, I like that little inside info. I didn't even know. All right. Next one up. Senator, you're the senator. Governor
Yes.
Mills laid out guidelines for communities to use as they decide whether to reopen schools, basically leaving it to the districts. Love it, hate it, wake me when it's over.
Wake me and it's over. These are, as you said in the question, guidelines. Towns and school boards and superintendents have the power to determine when they're going to open schools, how they're going to open schools. These are guidelines that they'll probably, refer to, but ultimately it's a local control decision.
Yeah, I like what she did. I do think you're right in the sense that this really is something that we just need to wait and see. So it's hard to judge whether these were good guidelines or not. What I'm hearing, it sounds like people are pleased with the guidelines, but we obviously have a little bit of time before we're really going to know whether this was the right thing to do.
Okay, up next. It took the Secretary of State a week to count the ranked choice votes and make a final determination as to who won the 2nd Congressional District Republican primary, as well as a number of other state legislative races around the state. Strim, love it, hate it, or wake me when it's over.
No, I think you're going to be surprised. I hate it. This just takes too long. I'm frustrated by it. In Portland, we do the ranked choice voting right there that day. It really is not that hard. I realize it's a bigger deal than simply one city, but we have to get up to speed. People have voted for ranked choice voting over and over again. They want it, but we should not have to wait a week to figure out who won these races.
Yeah, I hate it as well. There's this whole ranked choice voting, and now that we've gone into our 2nd election cycle using it, continues to show the flaws, the delays, the fact that the people who are ultimately determined the winner, at least in last year's race with Jared Golden, 2 years ago with Jared Golden and Bruce Poliquin. Jared Golden did not get a majority of the votes. I hate it.
Yeah. All right, next, Mitch McConnell is saying that Congress should not renew the additional $600 in unemployment compensation in the next economic recovery package. Senator Collins seems to be saying she agrees. Strim, love that. Phil, love it, hate it, wake me when it's over. Sorry.
I'm Phil, you're Strim.
I know, sometimes I feel like I'm just talking to myself here, brother.
I love it, not because of the impact it would have on the people who are receiving the $600 a week. I love it because we need to take away the incentive for people not to work. And when you can be eligible for unemployment benefits plus $600 additional benefits, and you're making more money not working than going back to work, I don't think that's the message we need to uphold in America. And it's not fair to the workers who are showing up and going to work every day, who are making less money than if they stayed home and took advantage of these public benefits.
Well, you got to remember, this is still a very small amount of money in the end. It's, barely getting people above water. There's just no evidence that this is where people are saying, I'm not going to go to work because I'm getting unemployment, which is going to be short term and is going to go away at some point, no matter what. That would just be a dumb decision for somebody to give up a long-term job to stay on something they know that's going to disappear. People are struggling out there. There aren't jobs. We don't want people going back into unsafe workplaces. You've got to maintain this basic benefit at least for another 3 or 4 months. So I hate it.
Strim, this week, the great civil rights leader, Congressman John Lewis, passed away. Nothing to love about his passing or hate about his life. So how about just a few reflections, if you will. Did you ever get to meet Congressman Lewis?
I did a couple of times, actually. I did when I was down in DC working for Tom Andrews. After that, I worked in a local organization that was trying to train young progressives. And Congressman Lewis came and spoke to us, spoke to the people that we had brought into Washington. And he also came to Maine, you might remember, with Tom Allen back in 2008, I think. And he came to Learning Works. and he met with some of our kids, and they went to the Abyssinian Meeting House, the third oldest African-American meeting house in the country, and talked to some of the young folks. Just a remarkable leader. You know, my kind of guy. He liked to cause a little bit of trouble around the edges in terms of trying to make sure policy gets through.
Well, you're very fortunate. I didn't have the pleasure of meeting him personally, but certainly from afar. I grew up in the era of the assassination of Pastor Martin Luther King, and it was Congressman Lewis, then probably the youngest civil rights activist, part of King's inner circle, who crossed over that bridge to what we know today as the March to Freedom, if you will. And what a legacy. I think he was arrested over 50 times for peaceful civil disobedience, holding true to his beliefs and his passions and his belief in America and what could be. What a legacy he has left.
Yeah, he really, he was only 23 years old when he spoke at the March on Washington, right there in front of Lincoln. Just a remarkable speech. If you've never seen it, you should. It was great.
Yeah.
The clock has run out. The buzzer is sounding.
Okay, Strim, we're going to move on. As we do each week in honor of Maine's bicentennial year, we're going to ask a Maine political trivia question. Here's last week's question. We all know Maine women got the right to vote in 1919 with the passage of the 19th Amendment. But in what year did women earn the right to serve in elected office? Did you get the right answer?
I did. It was 1921 in Maine. Did you know how the right to run for office was earned, though?
Was it an act of the legislature, or did it go on the ballot for a referendum vote?
It did neither, unfortunately. I wish. In fact, a couple of years before that, there was a vote on the issue of women being able to vote, and it lost 2-1. Of course, it was only men. It was only men who were voting at that time. It was an act of the state Supreme Court. They decreed that women must now be allowed to run.
Wow. Every once in a while, an activist court does the right thing. I'm impressed.
You see? Sometimes the courts have got to step in when the legislature can't get it done. All right, let's do this week's question. I kept it, let's see. No, we're now going back to the beginning of Maine. Maine had 4 governors in our first 2 years as a state. Can you name any of the 4 and why they kept resigning? So just to be clear, we had 4 governors in 2 years. Now each governor serves 4 years, 4 in 2 years, and it was not because nobody filled out their full term, just to make sure. So it wasn't like we only had 1-year terms that time. Wow,
very interesting. Well, we all know Maine's first governor was William King. But there were the other 3. That's going to be tough. I'm going to have to take a week to figure it out.
Did that first governor, was he there did he swear you in for your first term?
Speaking of swearing, keep this up, I'm going to start swearing at you.
All right, Donald, tell us, how do we do this week?
You're fake news.
Don't be rude.
We'll see you next week, folks.
Hey, Phil, nice haircut too, by the way. Looking tight there.
Thanks.
Looks good.
Thanks, buddy. Built for speed now.
Yeah.